this is going to be a message that not everyone is going to want to hear. But if you feel convicted, just look at it as iron sharpening iron, if that makes sense. I just wanted to give some advice about some things that I have struggled with, that I think some people can really benefit from hearing. So, welcome back to the channel. I'm so happy to be able to talk to you today. If you're new here, welcome to the family. It's so good to have you. I have taken some notes, guys, because you know how I am. If I don't have notes, I will ramble. So, we're going to be talking today about pride and women being too prideful. I will say also that this is not something that just applies to women. I'm a woman, so the only perspective I have is a woman's perspective. And so I'm going to be speaking from a woman's perspective, and this message is obviously going to be geared to other women. But if you are a man listening, I think that it could help you also. These are things that can be applied to other people. It's not just women who struggle with pride, obviously, but also it might help you articulate certain things that maybe you're feeling, like maybe certain issues you have with women. Maybe this could give you some insight. So before we get into it, I kind of like to look at definitions of things because I'm weird. So I wanted to first begin the video by defining pride. Oxford defines pride as the quality of having an excessively high opinion of oneself or one's own importance. I think that is, it's important to give the definition because pride is a complex emotion, and I'm sure there are people who are listening who might think that they have felt that before, and maybe you didn't know what the definition was, or you didn't think that that's how it's defined. That is how it is defined in the Oxford Dictionary. Now, in ancient Greek, the word hubris referred to outrage, quote unquote, or actions that violated the natural order, or which shamed and humiliated the victim, sometimes for the pleasure or gratification of the abuser. So hubris is often associated with pride, but they are different things. They have different definitions, they're different concepts. They are, of course, related, though. Now, you could also look at it, another way of looking at women being too prideful would be people being stubborn, right? A stubborn person or somebody who is maybe hard-headed or hot-headed. And so the emotion isn't bad on its own. Like, pride in and of itself is not necessarily bad, although you did hear what the definition was. But I mean, I think we all take pride in our work at times, right? As parents, we take pride in our families and our children, but there is a big difference between that and excessive, being excessive in your pride, or thinking that you have this excessively high opinion of yourself, or you're thinking that you're more important than others. Like, I want to say too, that there's a difference between being confident and being prideful. So confidence is good to have, godly confidence. Not the same thing as pride. Remember, pride is a sin. Now, in relationships, pride can lead to resistance, hindering the growth of your ability to love somebody and understand them, right? I want to talk about how this can come out during moments of anger. I'm sure everybody has had a situation, and that this does not have to be in a romantic relationship, but in general, everybody has had, I'm sure, a time where you got into a fight with somebody, and the thing that prevented you from maybe reconciling was pride. When you really boil it down, So I want to talk about that. So pride, though a natural aspect of human psychology, can become a barrier to your relationships when it takes precedence over love and understanding. In the context of a romantic relationship, pride can emerge during conflicts, causing individuals to put their ego before resolving whatever the fight was. You're basically putting pride before your love for that person. You say that you love them, but you don't love them enough to humble yourself, right? That's a thing, and that happens, and it's very sad. In certain situations, women may exhibit resistance to men in relationships, and pride can be a contributing factor. Whether this stems from a desire to assert independence, right? Be an independent boss babe, or whether it comes from fear of being vulnerable with a man, or the need to protect yourself emotionally. That resistance can hinder the development of a meaningful connection with somebody. And during moments of anger and disagreements, this can happen unconsciously, where a woman will prioritize her pride and ego, choosing to defend her perspective rather than trying to understand what the man is telling her and come to a common ground understanding. And that inclination to react that way can lead to a cycle of resistance where both of the parties in the relationship become entrenched in their positions, and then they're not willing to meet in the middle or make any compromises. And so to overcome that resistance requires being more open and willing to communicate. And I know a lot of women don't like hearing this, but like being more agreeable. Now, both people should strive to create a place that is safe for expressing your emotions without judgment, which is difficult. I know it's hard. But this allows you to connect with other people, to understand their perspective. And this is basically called being an adult. I know it's like we shouldn't have to say that, but it is a thing. Now, being agreeable, agreeability is very important for maintaining healthy relationships, because you're going to have friction in any relationship, whether it's romantic or not. This involves a willingness to compromise. You have to have the ability to empathize with people and the ability to prioritize the well-being of the relationship and the other person over your pride and ego. And by embracing being more agreeable, that can help you navigate conflicts more constructively and build a better foundation for mutual respect and understanding. And again, this can be applied to men and women. I do think, though, and I think that this may be something that could even be said objectively. You guys can let me know if you agree or disagree with me in the comments. I think that this is something, for whatever reason, women struggle with more than men. That's not to say that men can't be arrogant or like egotistical, but this pridefulness, I really see it manifested in a lot of the behaviors of young women, right? What the red pill community calls like modern women. You see it there. And I think it does come from this fear of being vulnerable with other people, that you have to constantly be resisting that, and you have to have all these walls up. Like, that's how I perceive it, at least. Okay. So I think also pride is a resistance to submission. Think about that. Pride is a resistance to submission, whether that be to a man or to God. Does pride cause you to resist God's authority and his will? Unfortunately, society is selling women liberalism as freedom, and devaluing and degrading yourself as empowerment. That's the things that are I guess you could say that's what is celebrated in society and rewarded. Like that behavior is incentivized by society. Feminism, that is incentivized by society. And you could say, and my friends have made this argument with me before too, that women are part of society. So if women aren't being valued for good things, but for degrading themselves and, these other things that they're called empowerment, like what does that say about women as well? So I think that there is some truth to that. Yes, women are part of society also. And if good qualities in women are not being valued, that says something about how women value other women and how they treat other women and themselves. Quote, "She's a strong, independent woman who don't need no man," unquote. How many times have people heard that? This is a prideful attitude that so many women have been indoctrinated with, and yet it is estimated that 45% of women aged 25 to 44 will be single and childless by the year 2030. That is not that far away, guys. That's less than 10 years away. That is according to a study by Morgan Stanley. That is deeply concerning. I will say those figures again. It is estimated that 45%, almost half of all women aged 25 to 44, will be single and childless in less than a decade. The feminist is praised by modern society, but as Christians, we should not be concerned with or to attach to worldly things. The Bible says the following about what makes a good woman. Proverbs 31:10 through 31, quote, "Who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies." From Proverbs 31:26, "She openeth her mouth with wisdom, and in her tongue is the law of kindness." Proverbs 31:30, "Favor is deceitful, and beauty is vain, but a woman that feareth the Lord, she shall be praised." Women need to start enforcing those standards on themselves and other women. If you have a friend and you hear her, bashing men, being arrogant, not being self-aware, and being haughty, you need to hold her accountable, just like you need to do so with yourself. How many people treat dating or relationships as something to use to gain attention and validation, treating it casually, treating other people casually instead of with care and grace? Certain people have made a career bashing women, especially modern women, for their bad behaviors, and those bad behaviors should be called out. We should criticize the behaviors, not necessarily the person. I actually think that it's nicer and it's better to try to guide them and gently correct them instead of bashing them. What does dunking on them ultimately accomplish, like in the long run, right? Quote, "Every wise woman buildeth her house, but the foolish plucketh down with her hands." Proverbs 14:1. "A gracious woman retaineth honor, and strong men retain riches." Proverbs 11:16. "The aged woman likewise, that they be in behavior as becometh holiness, not false accusers, not given to too much wine, teachers of good things." Titus 2:3 through 5. Quote, "Whose adorning, let it not be that outward adorning of plaiting the hair, and of wearing gold, or of putting on of apparel, but let it be the hidden man of the heart, in that which is not corruptible, even the ornament of a meek and quiet spirit, which is in the sight of God of great price." 1 Peter 3:3 through 4. Now, what does the Bible say about pride, which is, of course, probably the sin that led to his fall? "Pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall." That's Proverbs 16:18. but he giveth more grace. Wherefore he saith, God resisteth the proud, but give grace unto the humble. That's James 4:6. The fear of the Lord is to hate evil. Pride and arrogancy and the evil way and the forward mouth do I hate. As Proverbs 8:13, it describes pride and arrogancy as evil. A man's pride shall bring him low, but honor shall uphold the humble in spirit. Proverbs 29:23. These verses are all describing pride as a sin, and also they emphasize how destructive, self-destructive ultimately that is. And these passages stress the importance of being humble. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. That is Isaiah 14:12-15. Now, that is obviously describing, I think, the fall of Lucifer, illustrated through a story about the king of Babylon. But it's imparting that wisdom about not falling into pride. I think that pride, being too prideful, makes women rebellious, in the same way that Lucifer rebelled against God. It's the same thing when you really boil it down. These women that are very prideful, they rebel against male authority and guidance. Why is that? Why do they have such resistance to the idea of like listening to a man? There are some women who say that they hate men. And it's like, well, why do you feel that way? What makes you feel these emotions? And it says more about them than it does about men. Love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, it always trusts, it always hopes, it always perseveres. Love never fails, but where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. 1 Corinthians 13:4-8. Humble yourselves in the sight of the Lord, and he will lift you up. James 4:10. What that means, and this is key. We're going to wrap this up here because I feel like this has gotten very long, but it is key. It says, humble yourselves in the sight of the Lord. There are many people who, like a covert narcissist, they like to mask themselves in the air of false humility, of false meekness, and they virtue signal these things publicly in front of others, right? But what are they doing privately when no one's watching, when no one else can see them, when only the Lord is looking at them? Do they humble themselves then? Like, that's what I think that means. When it says, humble yourself in the sight of the Lord, he will lift you up. What that means is you need to humble yourself. You go to him, you get on your knees to pray. When you're alone, when people aren't watching you and can't see that you're being humble and meek or whatever, when you are in the privacy, how do you act then, right? And this is true. You humble yourself to him and you lean on him and he will lift you up. That is my message for today. And I hope that resonates with you guys. If it does, let me know in the comments. I always like reading what you guys have to say because I'm telling you, a lot of you guys are much smarter than me. So that's it. Have a good day.